Have you felt as though your body can no longer tolerate what it once could? Perhaps you've become more sensitive to noise, to crowds, certain foods, even technology, or even other people's emotional energy. Maybe your sleep has changed, you are having unusually vivid dreams, you feel exhausted for no obvious reason, and you find that these periods of exhaustion are followed by these sudden bursts of energy and creativity. Perhaps time itself is feeling different. That is very much the case for me. I've been experiencing all of the above: insomnia, like an allergic reaction almost to being around negative people. I kind of pick up on their vibes way before I even speak to people. I have even a thing about TV at the moment. I'm unable to watch a lot of television. I'm unable to spend much time on the phone. I'm just extremely sensitive to a lot of stuff, and my dreams are incredibly vivid at the moment, like really, really, you know, what is higher than HD? It's like very, very real. It's just everything is feeling, the dream state is feeling more real, or as real as real life, if that makes sense. So it's like this, what it feels like, and I'm not the only one. I'm sharing this video because so many clients of mine have been sharing their own experiences. It's like your old identity no longer fits or can no longer vibe in this timeline, if that makes sense. And the person that you are becoming is still yet to be, you know, whole and fully emerged. So in spiritual communities, experiences like this are often referred to as ascension symptoms. And I know that the person who I think introduced this term was Dolores Cannon. So ascension symptoms refers to signs that the body is adjusting to a change in consciousness or frequency, right? And I know this sounds very woo-woo, but stay with me because things have changed this year. 2026. Wow. Okay. So, as you know, I'm an astrologer. So what if astrology can help us understand why so many of us appear to be experiencing this now? What if some of what we call ascension symptoms is the body attempting to integrate collective energies that were previously experienced as distant, abstract, or impersonal? This is my theory. Before I continue, I want to be very clear. I'm approaching ascension symptoms as a spiritual and astrological idea and not as a medical diagnosis. So physical or psychological symptoms should never automatically be attributed to spiritual awakening people. If something is persistent or severe, frightening or concerning, please do seek the support of an appropriate healthcare professional. Sometimes a symptom is just that, it's a symptom of some underlying physical problem or psychological problem, and it will need medical attention. So once you've taken care of yourself, astrology does add another layer of meaning. So Dolores Cannon was a hypnotherapist and spiritual teacher whose clients repeatedly described humanity as moving through a transformation in consciousness. Through her hypnosis work, Cannon developed this idea that Earth and the people living on it, all of us, are moving into a different energetic frequency. And she believed that this shift would not only affect human consciousness, but the physical body would also need to adjust. And honestly, I truly believe this is what we are undergoing or going through now. Now, it's up to you whether you interpret her work literally, symbolically, or simply as a fascinating spiritual hypothesis, but it does raise a very important question. And the question is, can consciousness evolve faster than the body's ability to integrate it? And could some of the exhaustion, overstimulation, and disorientation people are experiencing be connected to that process? Now, this is my theory. I believe that Neptune's entrance into Aries and Uranus's entrance into Gemini gave us remarkable language through which to explore this possibility. So Neptune and Uranus are seen as outer planets. These are planets that are moving slowly and remain in one sign for many years. And because of this, their movements describe generational and collective changes rather than merely personal events. Now, Neptune is associated with spirituality, mysticism, imagination, transcendence, and the dissolution of boundaries. And Uranus is associated with awakening, disruption, liberation, electricity, sudden insight, and the evolution of consciousness. Now, we often experience these planets through events that seem larger to us. They seem to be impacting the culture, right? So we see them influencing things like technological revolutions, changes in collective values, and of course the collapse of old systems. Pluto is in this as well. But what happens when these outer planets enter signs that are connected to our instinctive body, to the body, and our perception and our nervous system? That's my question. What happens, right? Well, it's my theory that Neptune now in Aries, and Neptune, I mean, Aries is the sign of incarnation. It's the sign where we say, I am here, right? It's the moment of consciousness, I am here. And Aries is instinct and vitality and desire and physical will and the impulse to act. It is deeply connected to our embodied experience of being alive. And Neptune here, of course, is dissolving boundaries, dissolving this idea of separation. So it opens us up to what is invisible. It sensitizes us to energy, imagination, spirit, and the collective emotional field. So the energy is immediate because Aries is visceral. Aries doesn't want spirituality to remain an abstract idea. So Neptune in Aries is asking us to embody what we previously experienced as spiritual insight, right? When Neptune was traveling through Pisces. Now in Aries is saying, okay, it's one thing to understand things intellectually. It's one thing to understand that everything is connected. But it is another thing for your body to become so sensitive that you can no longer comfortably remain in environments that feel incoherent. Right? It is one thing to talk about authenticity. It is another thing for your energy to collapse every time you attempt to live as someone you're no longer meant to be. So Neptune in Aries may gradually dissolve an old relationship with personal identity, and you may know that something about you is changing, but you cannot yet give that change a name. So you will feel less motivated by the ambitions that once drove you, and you will be questioning desires that you assumed were your own. And at times this can feel inspiring, and at other times it's going to manifest to show up as fatigue and confusion and loss of direction, or the disappearance of the person you thought you were. And perhaps Neptune is not actually removing your will. I think that Neptune in Aries is refining your will. Perhaps Neptune is dissolving desires that were formed through fear, performance, or conditioning, so that this more authentic person, this authentic impulse can emerge. And it's the same thing, a similar thing to Uranus in entering Gemini. I mean, I literally feel electricity coursing through my body, people. There are nights I cannot sleep because it feels like there's an electric current running through me. Please leave a comment if you're experiencing these symptoms, right? So Uranus is in Gemini. Gemini is closely associated with perception, communication, mental processing, and the pathways through which information moves. And we associate Gemini with the nervous system and the constant exchange of signals between the body and the brain and the environment. And Uranus is electrical, like I say, and brings sudden awakenings, brings shocks, brings breakthroughs, increases the need for freedom. So there's this profound acceleration in the way that we are receiving and processing information. And we can already see this collectively through artificial intelligence, of course, communication technology, and the extraordinary speed through which information now travels. But how are we experiencing this actually internally. I think that our very human nervous system is adapting to a different informational environment. And many of us are unable to tolerate the relentless noise of modern life. We are surrounded by alerts and screens and opinions and images and crises and competing versions of reality. And our minds are being asked to process more information in a single day than previous generations encountered over decades. Decades, people, not days, decades. So Uranus in Gemini could intensify that acceleration, but it is also, I strongly believe this, awakening new mental capacities. I think that so many of us are becoming more psychic, and I think that many of our sleepless episodes, moments of lying in bed, unable to sleep, I really, really believe it's like we're getting downloads, spiritual downloads. I'm not saying every sleepless night is a spiritual download, and not every uncomfortable sensation is evidence that your vibration or your frequency is changing. But I do think for many of us, this is the reality. So there is some meaningful astrological story unfolding, and I really wanted to create this video so that it is, I think, on the historical record or something, because I honestly think that the reason so many of us are going through is there's this astrological connection. I do think, of course, on a higher level, this spiritual upgrade, so to speak. I do think many of us are entering a different dimension, possibly already in it, and that this whole process is going to be painful in many ways. Not everyone is going to experience, not everyone's going to ascend as such. I mean, however you want to refer to this. Let me know in the comments whether you have noticed changes in your sensitivity, your dreams, your energy, or your relationships with information. And most importantly, what has your body been asking you to change? Like for me, for example, I can barely eat meat. And this is someone who, eaten meat my whole life. But now I can barely even look at it or touch it or consume it. Just so much has changed, and in a relatively short period of time. So yeah, I'm extremely curious. I'm really curious to know what is going on with you. And if you found this exploration helpful, please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and do share it with someone who may be experiencing something similar. Until next time, take very good care of yourself and stay grounded.